I figured out that this is exactly a video where I could just show you what I did afterward and you figure it out. So I folded the thing in half, and I'm working on the back first because I don't know why. So the pattern says cut on the fold. So I went ahead and traced the back out, and I met up the shoulder where the biggest part of the armpit was here, so it would have the most amount of fabric. I know that goes back in and then goes back out, but that's okay, I think. So the main thing is to separate the body of the chemise from the old yoke of the garment. And normally I do this with my rotary cutter because it just makes cutting so much easier, but I do love my Guggenheim shears. They're amazing, so I can't wait to get another pair soon, when finances get better, obviously. So I did that, and now we're in a quandary because I need to get this out of my way. So we're going to fold it the other way around. And by the way, I'm working on the LM 100 chemise pattern, and I'm using an old shirt that I have that's half cotton, half linen. And I explained in the previous video where I got this from and how long I've been wearing this. So I'm going to take this, hope you can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to line that up, and then we're going to take the front yoke pattern and we're just going to mark on it. And I'm super lazy, like I'm just going to use a marker because it's going to go in the seam anyway. So I believe I did it right. This is the back. Yeah, that would make sense. There we go. Here we go. And I wish that when you bought a printed pattern that you got a PDF. That would make things so much easier, because sometimes you cut them to the wrong size and then you don't want to have to pay another $30 or whatever the case is for a pattern. I just like to print it out. Like if you messed up on something like this, the cat jumped up on it as I was cutting it and ripped the whole thing, and I'm like, if I could just have pre-printed this out, that would have been great. But I bought this pre-COVID, and so yeah, it's made of some really weird vellum. Right. Oh no. Oh yeah, that's right. I cut it at 32. I forgot. The first time I did this, I cut it at 40 because I thought that's what my measurements were. It turned out that was too big. Like horrendously too big. So I'm cutting that there. It's really hard just to like make this match up like this. And I would have recut the garment except to just add more seams to it. Give me, I've lost my marker. There she goes. So I think, yeah, see. So there it is. So if I just measure that to this piece I cut over here, which is right there. Ooh, not quite enough, but actually if I were cutting that to the 32, it would be right there, and it would be enough. So let's do that. This is probably why I was having fitting issues earlier. And I don't want to cut it to my size in case I want to make it for someone else, and well, yeah. So what I'm going to do is just move that down now. And forgive me, we don't have air conditioning, so you hear a bunch of fans in the background just trying to keep us cool. It's like 90 degrees here in Texas, and my ancestors are from the snow. Like where it snows like 9/10 of the year. So forgive me, I'm just extremely hot and my body is just not acclimating, even though I've been here almost 20 years. There we go. And so we're going to do that. And take out the patterns so they last, because I plan to make like a dozen or two of these. There we go. And has the zits, obviously. Here we are. Yeah, if I could just print it on sturdier paper would be great, without having to rebuy the pattern and all that stuff. But I did find that I purchased this through Truly Victorian for like $30, and then I went to their Laughing Moon website to find that I could buy it separately for like $7. Like, great. I could have saved some money. I'm not too worried since this is an old stained up blouse and we're just basically making a coverlet to keep our clothes clean. Because it's hot and I am living in these chemises, guys. Like, I don't know if you've tried them, especially the ones I've made in linen. They are amazing. Alright. So now that I have all this cut up fabric, I know where the center is here, and I'm going to refold this garment so I can cut the front of this delicately. These are burn marks from my iron, because sometimes I set it too high and I forget that it's set too high and it burns the fabric. Yeah, that's kind of scary, but I'm babysitting it, so. Alright, so I already see there's a problem that I cut the back and it goes here, and I cut the front and it goes here. So we are going to recut the back, I suppose. There. That gets us some fabric out of our way. And since I know now that I can just cut off the entire arm, I'm just going to go do that. I'm going to go from here. But look at these Guggenheims. Like, you don't even know how many layers of stuff's there, and look at it just cut right through it. I was having trouble because I didn't want to like overcut the garment. I didn't want it to snap on me and overcut. So we're just going to cut this sleeve off. We're going to put this in our scrap bin because I use scraps. I like to use my scraps. I did find a pattern for a Turkish poof, and I'm having fun making this for people in between stuff for myself. So we have this now that we have that there and that there. Like, how's she going to make that work? So now we are going to pull this forward and try to make a straight line. Look at that. Only I did it backwards, so we're going to do the straight line this way so we can see where it's supposed to be. I take front seams, I should get something comparatively straight. There we go. Yeah, that works. Alright, so there we go. There's no rocket science to this. I've never done it before, so if you haven't done it before and it looks like I'm doing okay, I probably am just doing okay. I've been sewing since I was like 3, off and on, most of my life. But mostly I did like doll clothes and home furnishings, and so I started about 5 years ago on actual garments. I sewed random things here and there, but I really just didn't have any encouragement. So I felt that I should start a channel and encourage others. If you're new to sewing, I'm here to encourage you. You don't have to be skilled to start this. We're just going to get rid of this. We don't cut it. And then we are going to do this because this is so much better. So I love the cut and sew. If you don't have a cut and sew in your studio, I'd highly recommend it because an ironing board is just, it works so much better because it holds the heat, so your garments just work better. Now watch. See? Look at that. And then I can come over here. And that little bit that I didn't cut well earlier, look at that. It's now gone. Oh, just so nice. I love my Guggenheims, but I also love to use this cutter. Now we get to the pits, and that's really the pits of it all, isn't it? So we're going to line that up. We're going to cut this off as best we can in this weird junction so that we can get rid of that piece of fabric. Now that we have the front, we can match up the back. So sciencey, y'all. I'm not even measuring anything. And I know it's too short to be an actual chemise. It is really just going to be like a coverlet because I was using it as a blouse, and that's why it's all stained up from me doing housework and stuff. Body sweat, housework, yard work, food work. Yeah. So if that is that, you can always make that piece work. Let's pull that better on camera so you can see what I'm doing. So I matched up the armpit to where of the first garment, or the front of the garment, and now we can see where this one is lacking. So we're gonna wing it here, folks. So I'm gonna cut off this so we are not working with all this extra fabric. And as you can see, it's so easy with this tool. And this pattern, the yoke's not so forgiving, but the bodice piece is so forgiving on this pattern. Like, you can make slight mistakes and it just really doesn't care. Plus, I'm not wearing this about town. There we go. Look at that, more scraps. And that doesn't look quite straight to me, so I'm just moving the scraps out of my way, so you can't see it on off camera. That's the front. This is the back. Let's see if I got that right. And I know I'm turning upside down, but that's orientation of the fabric. So if I line that up with the middle of the armpit here, you can see that I'm off slightly. Line that up with the fold, and you can see, yeah, that's horribly lined up and not even smooth. So we're just going to mark it real quick and recut it. Don't be afraid to do that. You can always cut off more though. So don't cut off too much in the beginning because you can always cut off more, but you can't put it back. Let's see. Line that up with the center of the armpit. Line that up with the fold line over here. And that's where we're at. Alright. I'm going to grab this. As long as you get the basic shape and the, you know, certain things line up like this right here. And this right here. No, that's it. Alrighty. Alright, to keep these nice and neat, and as we can see, this garment is not as long as them anyway, You put these back underneath the cutting board because that keeps them nice and flat. Look at that, nice, clean, and flat. And out of my way. Alright. Pull this out. And as it's folded, I'm just going to cut along that line. Doesn't have to be perfect. This has to be better than it was before. Like I said, this will be the third one I made, and I'm only doing this because I really want something to cover my chemise with, because I got in this second one I made so dirty cooking and doing laundry. I don't know how, but the whole front of it's no longer white, and I've only been wearing it 2 days. And now you're like, why did you change everything? Our washer just broke, so I am not getting clean clothes for a while, which is, you know, not your problem, my problem. The whole thing's sitting sideways. Like, I went to take a laundry out, and the whole drum was sitting sideways in the washer. Pretty sure it has to be fully replaced. Yeah, it's just crazy. So rather than wash clothes, I'll make them. I know it's retarded, right? Okay, so as far as this goes, now to set this in, we need to do markings. Great, I forgot about the markings. I kind of just know though, like, pull the yoke out. That's the front piece. Binder clips are like my favorite sewing tool. Alright. So this goes from here to here. This piece right here. No, this piece. There we go. That's gonna go from there to there. So I believe this sits here. So there's like, yeah, and then this all gets scrooched up into that. So I'm gonna have to mark that real quick because, you know, I pulled a dumb. It's marked on that pattern by little cuts, but it's not marked here. And you notice I marked it here, so we mark that again, so at least I don't have to redo the back. And this is going to get covered by the seams anyway. I used to do the frictions, but then I go to iron the fabric and the marks are gone, so that's just defeats the purpose. I tried chalk and it just seems to disappear. I tried the invisible markers, they seem to disappear, and I'm like, you know what, I could be more precise and care more sometime else. And that's the back. It's quite long, like it goes to my ankles. I'm short though, so, you know, do check your pattern. It should be cut short. So if I cut it to 40 for some reason, they lengthen the garment, because apparently all people who are big are also very tall, and all people who are short apparently very skinny. Yeah. So when you are making a pattern, don't be afraid to like fix some things to your measurements. Alright, so this goes here. That goes right there. And there's our marks. Should be one right here. And one right there. There. Yep, right there. Okay, that works. I am going to pause the video maybe, because I need to sew this real quick. And I don't want you just sitting here with machine noises. I think I can pause the video. And I'll be back after I've done the stay stitching. Stay stitching prevents the edges of the fabric from being over manipulated and stretching out while you're working and ruining the garment. So let's do some stay stitching and I'll be right back, folks. Alright folks, I am now back. In addition to stay stitching, I went ahead and did the gathering stitches. So for the gathering stitches, they want you to stitch a row of very long stitches, 2 rows of very long stitches from one notch to this notch on the bust on both sides, and then from this notch to this notch on the back, and then pull the strings. So we're going to do that because it's quite fun. So we're going to grab all 4 of these strings, and we're just going to, no, we're going to grab 2 of the strings, not all 4, 2. And go ahead and tie off the front ones, I guess. Come on, fingers. So we're going to pull them. We're just going to get a basic, decent gather. Wow, that was epic. That it just broke in my hand. We're going to start on this end. Yep. Come on. There we go. We're going to tease it down. Don't need too much, you just need to put a small gather in the top. I'm going to grab this and... Oh, that's bizarre. It's got like a knot in the fabric. But that's good enough. We just need a little bit of a gather. It's not very much. Grab both the front ones on this side. Now if you want at this stage, you can go back to the sewing machine and sew over the gathers. But what the instructions have you do is just iron them. And so we'll do that next before we start messing with the yoke again. I highly recommend you don't try to cheat the pattern off of a video because you won't get the proportions right, you won't get the sizing right. What videos are nice for is when you're having trouble with the instructions, because sometimes the instructions can be quite difficult to understand because you're trying to understand somebody else's way of doing something. And that's understandable. So after you do that, you're just going to take these and you're going to tie them off kind of loosely, because you're going to need to manipulate them later. I'm not going to do it because I've done it so often that I'm good with not pulling out my gathers, but when you're new to this, it can be quite helpful to tie off your gathers to keep them in the right size. I did mention it's like 90 degrees in here, and my headset makes my head really hot, so if I start stumbling, it's just because I'm a little bit overheated. So you're just going to keep teasing those in. And we can always reduce them later, we can always pull them out later, but it's easier to pull them out to the size you want and then fuss with them than it is to get them wrong in the first place. So see, we have all that to go. And right there's about the middle, so we're just going to get these mostly to the middle. And this adds ease in the garment because the yoke is a little bit of a constraint. It does yoke you. It's helpful for giving your body structure, though. I want to say that having a yoked garment rather than one that's very loose in the shoulders has helped me in bra wearing, because I wear bras underneath over my chemises rather than under them because I'm allergic to them. And when I sweat, I'm still allergic. It just makes it worse. So I cannot wait to get rid of commercial bras. But I'm just having snags with the corset because of my weird, odd body shape. Well, that's weird. Oh, I see what happened. Okay. And just in case you're wondering, I started doing only natural fibers a few years ago when I discovered that that synthetic clothing was my allergy problem. I do still have synthetics in my stash, but I'm slowly destashing them into non-clothing projects like gifts for other people. But I highly recommend, if you haven't researched it before, research the fibers that are in your clothing. For instance, cotton, linen are very natural fibers, so is silk and wool. There's ethical things people have problems with silk, but wool, the sheep need to be sheared anyway. Like they do. This is part of maintenance. That's what the sheep are. You can't leave them unsheared. If someone's hurting the sheep shearing them, then that's a problem. But they should not be injured otherwise, because it reduces the quality of the wool. So people who are shearing wool for clothing or for sale in general do not want their animals to have stress, because the wool comes out really nasty and coarse and stuff. Hello, Tobias. As far as silkworms, well, they are a bug, so I mean, yeah, they do have memory and feeling, so just take that into consideration. But I do have silk in my stash. I have very little silk in my stash. I've got it from destash groups, so it's not really directly contributing to the industry. But linen is better than cotton, because it needs very little to no pesticides. It grows well on its own without much fussing. Cotton usually needs pesticides. But they're still both natural. So there we go. We have that. It looks like a skirt. And now we need to manipulate the yoke. But polyester, I've been reading about that it's being linked to breast cancer and endocrine disruption issues with people with PCOS and endometriosis. So if you're suffering from those problems, I would definitely look into your fabric problems. Okay, so this is where the pattern I really deviate from the original pattern instructions. They have you having the yoke like this, and then they have you just opening it, sewing the bodice directly this direction, and then folding the same thing up somehow. And I could not for life of me figure out what they were trying to explain, like how to originate that. So what I did, they're like, here, just sew this to the back and then fold it up and hand stitch it in. And I'm like, that's too much work, as much as I love hand stitching. So what I did is I go ahead and fold the front of the bodice up, or front of the yoke up, right past that stay stitch. So I've already gone ahead and done the stay stitching on this, and obviously made the yoke, and I've already made all of the curve cutting. So then I'm going to come in and I'm going to gently fold on the stay stitch and use a medium iron so I don't burn the fabric. And I'm just going to move the iron as I work. I'm going to make sure the stay stitch gets rolled inside. And I'm going to do the front first so that I can match the back up to the front, if that makes sense. So you see I'm just rolling it in, moving my iron, rolling it in. And this turned out very, very well. I was extremely pleased with how neat the garment came out doing it like this. Whereas I tried it the other way and I couldn't match up the back. I couldn't match up the front and back of the yoke on the seams. And several of these just escaped the whole thing. And I was like, okay, it needs to be ironed. So I need to take this out. One moment, let me find my seam ripper. I need to take this out slightly so it's just so I can get that curve in there. I absolutely love the seam ripper because it has these rubber ends on it. So you can literally, like when you have stray threads, you can go like that and erase them out of your garment. See that? Isn't that nice? And then they're all like stuck to it and you could just like throw them away. Yeah. So obviously I didn't do that before, but there they are. So you're just going to open that slightly before you do this. And just so you could get this into the garment. And it's a little tricky. It's a little fussy. You're going to find because you didn't cut all the way to the stay stitching that it's going to want to not curve properly, and you're going to see that. So just over correct it underneath like that. And then relax it with the iron. So you're going to relax the fabric down. That's why you iron it. Fussy, fussy, fussy. And then you just relax the fabric into place. So it's a little bit, but you know, can fix that by doing this with my Guggenheim mini shears. See that? Now when I roll it under, see how much easier it rolls under? That's the other reason for the stay stitching, it keeps that from getting undone. And then we need to straighten this back down, like that. And you're asking, well, why did you just do that to both pieces? It's really hard to do it both at once, and you actually get a better situation if you do the front, and then come back while the fabric's still warm, and fold the back up just to match it. The back's not going to be seen, it's going to be well sewn into the garment, but this is also why you need to be very exacting whenever you're cutting the pattern itself, because you're going to wind up with this right here not matching. I hope you can see what I'm doing. So you see how I just matched up those edges as I rolled the bottom piece, and this will come in handy later whenever we're tacking in the garment, the bodice to the yoke. Very careful because this will melt. See, I melted it to the iron before. So I want to put that away real quick. So be careful and don't burn yourself. So where patience comes in. Be patient with yourself, be patient with the fabric. Don't burn it. Pull that in there. Come on. It doesn't have to be perfect because the back side's not going to be seen by C-bill, and 2, you're not going to if it's not perfectly exact, you're not going to notice because it's on 2 different sides of the fabric. So the reason you want it as close as possible is so that when you go to do your stitching, you catch the stitching properly. So now we're done with that. We're going to do all of that first. And now that I've demonstrated how to do it, I'll try to do it a little faster. case you're wondering why I'm not leaving the iron there, the ironing board, the stitching quilt board, is getting quite hot to the touch, and it's kind of burning my fingers a little bit, so I think I go slower with this on my own, because I don't remember getting this hot before, but what do I know? Alright, that one's not wanting to stay down, so we're just going to press it. You also notice I don't use steam or spray water on my fabrics, because they were leaving watermarks that I was not getting out, and I was not happy with it. I think it's to do with the fact that this quilting press has a actual board in it, and I don't know, maybe quilters don't wet their fabrics when they iron them. I don't know, because I don't quilt. I want to quilt. I've made a quilt, but I'm not a quilter. My made quilt was taking a 20-year-old blanket I had that was cotton from IKEA and randomly stitching apart a sheet that I had cut apart to it. Sometimes when it's unwieldy like this, I'll just take one of my little mini binder clips and I'll just be like, hey, stay there, because you're being unruly. And like I said, these are burn marks, scorch marks from the iron, and I don't know what that is. It was like that when I got the fabric. So this back piece is linen, whereas this is linen cotton, and that's the difference between the two fabrics, if you can notice. I think I used this as a napkin for a while, and that's why it looks the way it does. As you can see, I've already done double top stitching on here, and I've already turned all these seams, and look how nice and crisp they are. So what I need to do here is find my scissors. Like, you just saw I had scissors issue, right? They're there. You're just going to clip not all the way to the stay stitching, but like 1/8 of an inch from it, and about 1/2 inch apart from each other, and you're just going to clip through both layers of fabric like that, so that way it wants to curve with you. I know linen is more buttery soft than cotton, so this is easier to work with than actual cotton because it's half linen. But a pure linen like this, oh, it's so nice to work with. The curve's gotta go a little more. And the iron says you have to iron it hot. I don't believe that, because you can actually iron linen with just a piece of bone and friction, and it'll iron itself. So I don't know why they want you to use a very hot iron with linen. Although it just seems to take the abuse and not care. Alright, I'm going to do this side. So, one of my problems with my Guggenheims is, as much as I love them, they have like a grip to them when you're sewing, and that fatigues my hand. So if you at Guggenheim hear this, maybe I got a bad pair of scissors, because they have, as you can hear it, can you hear that? It's got like a tooth to it. So, I've had them many years though, so, even though I still have, you know, the tag. So they're kind of gritty on the edge, and I don't know why, but they just don't seem to have a problem with cutting fabric. They could be made that way. I don't know. I've not had good scissors before this since a long time, so my other dress shears were different, and they just were terrible at cutting fabric. So once again, we're just going to tuck this under. The nice thing about linen, it is very grateful to be manipulated, and watch. Like, yeah, it's that easy to manipulate true linen. I'm going to go ahead and give it a press after this, just to set in this turn, but otherwise I can literally just press my warm fingers against it on a warm mat, and it just presses so nicely together. I'm just going to keep doing that. And since we're here, we're going to roll the bottom one under. Well, I'm going to give it a top press. So that nice and crisp. And then we're just going to match this up. I promise by the next video I'll get some kind of music so that it's not so boring and you're not just hearing these tunnel noises from the fans. I tried doing the first video with the fans off and I started getting sick. And I really have no choice because the whole house has no air conditioning, so it doesn't matter where I go, it's just going to be hot. We are trying to suck in some cool outside air at night, which, by the way, this video is being made in the middle of the night. Because my husband worked nights, so I just shifted my schedule to match his. But yeah, it's cooler at night, so at least it's more workable at night. And we're saving a ton on electricity, which is very nice. And honestly, it doesn't matter which one you do first, but it's easier to match up the bottom with the top to me. But if you want to do this in any direction that is more, you can do the bottom one, the back side, and then match it to the front side. You could do the front side and match to the back side. It's just easier to visualize how the front is going to look, the part that matters. Run my fingers across it. Look at that. That stain's bugging me, yo. I can't wait to put it like in a bucket of soak and soak it and clean it. What are we supposed to be cleaning our linen with, by the way? Because I had someone that told me I had to use wood ash, and I was like, that would be the accurate way to do it. If you're not doing it wood ash, it's not proper. And then there's this whole thread chiding me about how to clean linen. I was like, yo, I don't need all this. Someone else said, you just need to use regular detergent. And I said, well, I'm using Zote, which is a lye-based detergent. Oh, you can't do that. It's going to ruin the fabric. You know, I've not noticed a difference between any of the methods I've tried. The fabric just seems to be just that forgiving, just doesn't care what you do to it. However, drying it does make it fuzzy, which is nice, but it also makes it kind of more like flannel. So if you don't want your linen to feel like flannel, don't put it in the dryer. We have a city ordinance, so we're not allowed to hang clothing outside to dry. So I can't just stick my stuff outside and whiten it with the sun. I can't dry it outside. And if I leave it inside, Texas is so humid that things just mildew. So it's really difficult to like just do things this natural way that people claim you want to do it. But I find that I have a chemise that I made out of a similar weight of linen. We'll just say that, from the same company, which is the fabric store. And if you know which one I'm talking about, it's going to be linked in the description below. And that linen, I've had the same chemise. I wear it almost every day, except when I need to wash it, which was like once a week. I would wash it, and it is, there's not even anything wrong with it other than the part of the yoke right here is being frayed, which is, in one of our next videos, we'll be remaking that chemise into one of these chemises, because why not? Anyway, enough about the future. Hey, get in there. Another thing you want to worry about, and I know I keep doing this, is touching your face, because your face is full of a bunch of oils and it'll stain your fabric. Especially if you're like me and you're sweating and have oily skin and it's sweating and it's nasty. And that's probably what a lot of these little marks are, is from my sweaty, nasty, oily skin fingers from scratching my face or wiping the sweat off my face. You can see it's a little bit off, but as long as it's mostly together, you're gonna top stitch just twice like here. So, well, at least I am. It didn't call for it, but it just made it so much better. So I said I was going to show you how to attach this now. We are going to pull out our pins. And let's get to the back piece, which is here. It says to do the front piece first. I don't care. It didn't seem to make a difference. So you're going to find the notch mark. So I made a notch mark somewhere over here. Come on, notch mark. Wow. I did not make a notch mark apparently. It should be somewhere like right here though. I know, just halt the pattern. Right? Oops. Alright, here's the pattern. Just gonna match it up real quick. And I don't want to make a mark on the front, so we are going to take this thing. So I've matched up with the center line here, matched up with the center line here. You see it's not fully rounded. Didn't seem to make a difference. I'm just going to take this and mark it. There we go. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Hey, why are you coming in on? Who said you could do that? Center back and there. Yeah, just take a little V there. That'll come off in the wash. I just love this little thing, but some fabrics it doesn't work on. It likes linen though, apparently. So remember the marks we made here. This is where the gather starts. So that's where you're going to start pinning. You're going to take all this extra thread here. And we're just going to push it into there. 'Cause, you know, we could cut it off, I guess, but why? So I'm going to pin it right here. You're going to go by the bottom mark right here to there. Flatten that. You see how it's already in place now? No extra hand stitching anywhere involved. I'm just going to pin this twice just to make it more sturdy. I love these pins. These are glass headed pins, so they won't melt if you accidentally iron them. Just heads up. The only problem is they do bend really easy. You have to be gentle. Like that. And all of this. Push it to the back, push it to the front, and yeah, like that. Hey guys, back in there. If you're like me, you got it all messed up. Just gonna lay it flat down and make sure all the little tabbies on the back and on the front are pushed back in. And for some reason it's not meeting up, but that's okay. I think this blouse is just a tad bit smaller. And we can't do it all the way anyway because remember that it's sewn on the sides, whereas the original pattern doesn't have it sewn on the sides. You're just going to make sure this, when you do this, you're pushing through the front and the back panels. And I'm just going to lock this one in place by using two of them. See that? And then you could just go through and make sure when you place this in place, those are tucked. Push it through here. You're going to make sure it hits the back panel as well. See how it's not hitting? And then like that. Then you're going to lay it down and say, oh yes, it's smooth. Alright, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Going to find our little notch mark. And I'm wondering, should I start streaming this as well? I mean, I should probably stream it on Coffee, right? Because that would make sense. I got back front panel smoothed. We're going to take one here. Gonna make sure it goes through the back panel as well. I'm just filling with my fingers, and you're gonna go like that, and then you're gonna lock it in with this right here. You're gonna make sure it goes through the back panel as well, and then gets locked in there. And then you're going to pull the armpit out to where it's supposed to go. A lot easier when you're only working with one half the garment at a time instead of both. Notice I'm not going all the way to the end because I don't know where the end's going to be on this. Because like I said, when I made the other one, the front and back panels weren't connected. I'm obviously retrofitting a shirt, so we're just gonna do it as the best we can. I'm gonna grab that, and I'll lock it like this, and then we're just gonna take a third one, or fifth one in this case, and catch that. Alright, now to fit this gathered part into the yoke. And the nice thing I like about the quilt and press is when you're working on a garment like this, I can grab one of these shorter pins and fuss my garment and go, hey, stay and put right there. Stay put. Stay put. Oop, it's a long one. Short one. Stay put. And look at that, now it's staying put. So I can start messing with this and manipulating it. See, there's a lot of gathers over here. I'm just going to want to grip the strings the best I can and pull the gathers evenly. There's another way to do this. You can take the back end of a pin and pull them. I'm going to demonstrate how that works. Pearl-headed pin I don't think works as well, but you can go like this, and apparently that's supposed to help them lay, and you can see it's already doing it. See how it's pulling them down, smoothing them out? This apparently is the historic way of doing this. Whatever. I am just gonna fuss with it a little bit. Pull them, make sure they're even. Pull any stray threads where they should go. You can always cut them off later. There we go. You don't belong in here anyway. See? See what happens when you're in the wrong place, the wrong time, and you get moved. Alrighty. The other thing I forgot to do is mark the center line on both of these so that I got the fabric even, but you know, being what this garment is, it doesn't really matter to me. So we're just going to go through here with the iron to kind of flatten these. So we flatten them a little bit. It does help a little bit, and see how, and we're not going to melt our glass-headed pins, thankfully. Just keep doing this, get them really flat. There you go. So there are other marks here, which I apparently didn't mark. But you can see there's a mark here and here. So just do your best to figure out where those should have been if you didn't mark them. Like I apparently didn't. Think. Hey, where are you going? Look in there. Go on. Anyway. I'm talking to the fabric like it can understand me. I'm going to make sure that this bottom line here is inside of that seam, and we are just going to pin it. We're going to make sure it goes all the way through the back side, the back panel, and it did not. And there we go. And you're just going to keep doing that. So we're going to push this in. And we can stop with these now. Pulling the bottom back panel down so I can get that in there. And then fussing it out a little bit. And I'm worried that these tabs aren't pushed in, and they weren't. I was correct. So we're going to make sure they're pushed in. We're going to pinch the fabric where we want it pinched. grab another pin, make sure it goes to the front and back panels, and in there. Look at that. You just keep doing that until you get the fabric where you want it. Let's say put this here. See how I'm just pushing that underneath so we get a nice tight seam line. You also notice how I'm creating anchor points on the fabric with different marks like the center line and the pattern notches, whatever they're called. And then make sure you get both pieces of fabric and then pin it. This is going to need a little more space. Let's see how by not doing it too perfectly we can just pull out some wrinkles, and now we have more fabric. On down there, I'm going to fold this under and make sure those are folded in. I'm just going to grab these. See how that is being misbehaving coming out right there? We're just going to make sure it's behaving on both sides. Ouch. And we're going to grab this, and another way you could do it is you could grab this and then you could tuck it underneath that and then come find the back and push it up to the garment, and just make sure you have it flat when you're done, like so. Because what you really want is you want that stay stitch you made, or the gathering stitch you made, whichever is the bottom stitch for you, you want that to not show after you're done sewing. So you're just going to want to encase it into the yoke. You see that's being fussy. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to grab the back piece. And I'll just judge that when I'm sewing. So we have this all done. You can see it's almost nicely encased. If you get to sewing and you find bubbles like this, you can always kind of fuss with the fabric as you're sewing and pull it tighter, see, and get that to work. The other thing you're going to do is before you sew this, you're going to flip it over and make sure you've gotten all the tabs in the back. We don't want to cut off these gathering stitches yet, so just be careful when you're sewing. Make sure these don't get caught in your machine or in your sewing project. You just leave them there. So make sure all the tabs are tabbed properly. And I will see you on the flip side, because I'm going to sew this and then I'm going to do the front yoke and then show you when I'm done. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here and I'll be with you in a second. Alrighty, we are back. It has been a couple hours and I've been working the whole time. just don't let you worry. But it was really fussy to get these armholes done, because in the original pattern you do the front and back pieces separately, and then after you get the yoke done on, you do a front seam here. So you sew a seam right side out, clip it thin, and then you turn it back inside, and you get this beautiful French seam, and this is done up like that. Well, I love that, and I've done it on the others. This one already had a gore in it, and I didn't want to have to seam along that gore. That just seemed weird. Actually has 2 gores, so I tried to do my best to make sure the arm scythe was centered on the 2 gores, as you can see. And then I just did a little fold over here and then sewed right over it. I've already clipped most of the threads, so I'm going to take my little thread nippers here and get the last few ones from this last sew. A couple of other things while I'm here is I want to talk about how I do this top stitching. So it's not required in the pattern, it only requires you to do 1 row of top stitching, a 1/4 inch away from the area. So this is about how far it wants you to do the top stitching. I feel that it leaves these edges open too much, and that the material is not going to sit right, or clean right, or wash right, or wear right. So I go back and I do a second one. In fact, I do it opposite the way they do. So I take this particular foot from my brother, and when I first sew along it, when it's the first seam, I line that seam up with this hole that's just offset from the needle, see? And I set it on the shortest row of stitches. For me, that's 9. No, that's not 9. It is 6. I do a 6. And so I just line the edge of the fabric up with this notch right here, which is just off center from the needle, and that's how I get it so close to the edge. And then when I go back, depending on which way that sits when I sew on the second row, I either line that up with that side or I line that up with that side. And that's how I see how even that stitch becomes. And so you get a really pretty top stitch. I know it's not perfect. For some reason this machine is very slippery and hard to use. But my last machine took a dive, so it literally fell off its sewing machine table and broke. I was really sad. It was purple. It was pretty. So while I do the rest of this, I'm going to clip all of these threads with my thread nippers. I love thread nippers. I wish these were Guggenheim thread nippers, because I'm sure they would work better than these off-brand Chinese ones, but whenever I bought my Guggenheim scissors, they didn't have thread nippers. They only had the little embroidery scissors, and I felt kind of sad about that. So if they ever come out with thread nippers, or if they have them now, that'd be fantastic. Because I definitely would like to upgrade my pinking shears anyway, and pass mine off to somebody else. I haven't decided whether or not I'm just going to sew this closed, or I'm going to put a button or a snap or something there. I'm kind of loving the ones I have now, that I just leave it open and it kind of just folds down like that while I'm wearing it. And my husband likes it that way too, so I don't really care. Normally in couture sewing, you're going to leave all these threads long. You're going to loop them onto a needle and loop them back into the fabric, so that you don't have threads sticking out and they don't pull out of the garment. Since this is just what I consider my new fast fashion, I don't really care, like, if there's a little thread sitting, because it's already a scrap bin project anyway, and it's outlived its first life twice now. So it was curtains, and then it was a little peasant top, and now it is a chemise, and I'm going to be happy with whatever it is now. So if you have cats, please make sure your threads are adequately put out of their mouthways, because they will swallow them, and then these become like little razors in their stomach and kills them. And you can never tell when your cat's going to start chewing threads. Excuse me. As I say that, the one who is most suspect to do that is sitting on my sewing machine table, looking at me like, yep, as soon as you leave those unattended, I'm going to eat them. So that's also why we leave these all long, so that we easily can find them where they came from. and especially if you're going to weave them back in. Instead, I just pull it tight for this, so you can't see them. So to lock the stitch, to keep the stitches from becoming undone, I just use reverse for like 2 or 3 stitches and then back again, and that locks the stitch in place, so you don't have to worry about it undoing itself. And that's about it. I'm wondering if I should put lengthen this in by putting some lace on the bottom. I haven't decided, but I'll do that on my own leisure, because you know, you came here for one thing and it wasn't to watch me sew lace all evening. But if you would like to see how that turns out, you're welcome to check this out on my blog. I'll put the link in the description at some point and link all the products I'm using and where to get them. And I'm sure you'll love to see that. Right. So I'm going to toss this in the wash. That's really why I wanted to get it done, so I can see how many of those stains I can get out, or there's scorch marks or burn marks. If you have a tip on getting scorch marks out of fabric, please do tell. Otherwise, yeah, this is basically my new little dirty shirt. Painting shirt, dishwashing shirt, lounge shirt, yeah. So I don't have to worry about getting the under chemise dirty. And that's why I put lace, so I can identify that this is the top garment. Anyway, you have a great day. Like, share, and subscribe for more videos. If you have a channel or a social media, please hit me up on there and send me a link. I will follow back and watch your stuff. So have a great day. Take care. Bye.